Hello and welcome back to another episode of Selenium Express. I'm your host Vilas and today we're going to be talking about interface in Java 8. From Java 1.8 version, we actually can create a functional interface, which is a pretty new feature of Java 1.8 version. And to create a functional interface, we should have clear-cut understanding on default method, which is again a brand new feature of Java 1.8 version. So throughout this entire session, I'm going to be talking about that. But before I go ahead and explain you that, I got a question for you. Well, this interface concept was there for a long time, isn't it? But why did the developers at Oracle make changes to it? There must be something wrong, right? So we'll figure out that first. So as we go further in this tutorial, I'm going to create a small little working example and we're going to observe that what problem that we developers used to face while working with the interface in earlier versions of Java. Alright, and later in this tutorial I'm going to tell you how to fix those problems using the latest feature of Java 1.8 version. So we're going to do it step by step. First we're going to see the problem, then we're going to see how to fix that problem using the functional interface. So a lot of good things in the store. Well, if you're a beginner and watching this tutorial, you also can follow this. In case if you don't understand something in between, don't worry. Watch this tutorial till end and trust me, it's gonna be worth watching. So let's go ahead and get a hand study by writing some code. So guys, let's say we have an interface called RBI. Okay, so as you know that RBI is the authority of all the banks in India, and it controls all the bank, and it has few guidelines, few rules for other banks to follow. All right. So let's say that interface RBI has two methods, which is withdraw and deposit method, and all of the other banks like SBI, Axis, and PNB has to follow RBI rules, as you guys know. All right. So now let's say that SBI has to construct its own application by following the RBI interface. So to do that, I'm going to implement the RBI interface over here. All right. So as you know that if a class is implementing an interface, it has to override all the unimplemented methods. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm doing it by using Eclipse trick over here. Alright, so now all of my interface method has been overridden over here in the SBI class, and I'm just gonna get rid of this thing and over here as well. Alright, let me clear this off. Great. So here is my method. Now let's just have a simple print statement over here. Alright. Let's say this SBI withdraw. All right, and I'm going to copy this out and I'm going to put it over here, and I'll say SBI deposit. All right. So similarly, Axis Bank and PNB also going to implement, RBI interface. So I'm going to say implements RBI, and PNB also has to implement RBI. And as the interface rule says, they're both gonna need to have the overridden method inside them. So I'm just gonna copy this thing and just going to put it over here and put it over here as well. Great. And I'm gonna change this a little. I'm gonna say access withdraw and access deposit. And I'm going to say this as PNB withdraw and PNB deposit. All right. Now that's fine. Now this is just a simple application. And if I'm going to run this application, I need to create an object of that particular bank and I need to call its method. For example, I have a simple class over here called bank, okay, with a main method. And if I'm going to create an object like RBI SBI user equal to new SBI, and let's call this method, let's say SBI user dot deposit and SBI user dot withdraw. All right, now let's do the same thing for the access as well. So I'm going to say RBI access user equal to new access and access user dot deposit and access user dot withdraw. Right, so now let's go ahead and run this application. Okay, so I'm gonna click run over here and I'm gonna click OK and bang, SBI deposit and SBI withdraw, access deposit and access withdraw. This is really simple. There's nothing inside it. It's just a simple example, right? Okay, so now all working fine. But guys, if you see a little bit deeper to this application, you can find that this application is a little messy. The reason why I'm saying it, because if you investigate and if you look this example as a real world example, you can find that this RBI is a different guy. And it's just created some rules and launched that rules to the market. I mean, launched that interface to the market, which other vendors, I mean, which other banks need to follow. So this SBI is a different guy and it should have its own application. And this Axis is a different guy and it should have its own application as well. So does PNB, isn't it? But I'm putting everything over here into a single file just because for your readability convenience, okay? And I really don't like to switch between files over here while elaborating an example. But in real world, all these things need to place under different files. RBI into a different file like rbi.java. SBI is a different application. We should place it like sbi.java or something. Okay, so that's the reason why actually I put all these classes, interfaces into this single file. All right, so don't freak out later asking, why did you put everything into a single file? It looks so messy. Just because I really don't want to confuse you guys by creating more and more files, okay? Let's make it really simple. All right, that's great. Okay, now let's go ahead. So as I said, now this application is working fine, okay? So all the customers of SBI, customers of Axis, customers of Punjab National Bank, they are happily using their applications, okay? Okay, so now all working good. But after a few years, RBI came with a new thought that it should make some changes to its existing rule. Actually, what RBI want, that RBI want to introduce two new rules, okay? The first rule is RBI want all the bank customers should link their Aadhaar number with their bank account, all right? And the second rule is RBI wants all the bank customers should maintain a minimum balance which is 1,000 or 2,000 or something, okay? So it want to introduce two new rules. Okay, so what RBI need to do over here in this situation when they really want to introduce two new rules? They just cannot come straight away and can bank the existing interface by putting two new methods over here. And in case if they are going to do that, see what's going to be happen. So if I'm including two new methods called void link Aadhaar and void mean balance over here in the existing interface, then what's going to be happen? See, all the bank's application, whether it's SBI or Axis or PNB, now showing me errors. That means tons of customers of SBI, Axis and PNB now cannot use their applications. Now they cannot do any type of transaction as the application got broken, isn't it? So RBI really cannot make any changes to the existing interface, and it used to be a bad practice on or before 1.7 versions of Java, because you really cannot do that, because if you're doing it, the people who are using your interface, the people who are implementing your interface are going to suffer, isn't it? Okay, so what's they gonna do? They really cannot put all these methods over here. So I'm just deleting it over here. When some new features need to be added, we just need to create a new interface. There is no other way. So the RBI need to create a new interface saying RBI 2017 rules. I'm just giving it a fancy name. All right. So, and here I need to put those new methods, the new rules, or the new specification that I need my banks to implement over here. So I need to put it over here, void Aadhaar link and void min balance. All right. Now, this is not going to make any problems to the existing applications, okay? So these are the new rules that I want the banks to implement, okay? So the current version need to have these two features, okay, with the existing features, which are void withdraw and void deposit. So what I need to do, I just need to extend this interface with the older one, isn't it? Now, this particular interface does have these two methods with the parent methods, which is withdraw and deposit, okay? Okay, now you may think now we are all set, okay? But see, this is another huge problem, all right? Now, SBI exactly cannot make any changes to the existing application, or Axis cannot make any changes to the existing application. Because if they are doing it, their customers are going to suffer. They cannot make any transaction, okay? So they really can't make any changes to their existing application. Now they don't have any option left, and what they need to do is they need to create a whole new application saying SBI version 2.0, isn't it? That's really not cool, okay? Now what they need to do, this SBI version 2.0 need to extend, this class need to extend the SBI class and implement the new interface, which is RBI 2017 rules. And now we just need to add the new features that RBI want to add us, okay? Now just check it out, okay? Now this Aadhaar link and the mean balance, these two methods we need to design, we need to implement, isn't it? There is no other way. Okay, so now we need to make changes over here, okay? So it's extend to SBI, that means all the previous methods is going to work for us, and then we need to add these two methods with a new version class, okay, with a new version application. And we need to design, we just need to put our logic over here, okay? But guys, I really don't want to make this application in this way. I'm just giving you an example. What's the problem we used to face, okay? Now see, if the things is gonna be go in this way, then SBI need to construct a whole new application, okay? And guys, can you see the limitation over here? Money waste, time waste, and the huge problem that what I think is that is a headache for the developers. Okay, so now as we have seen all of this problem, all we can say that we are in a pretty bad situation. We just wanted to add two new features to our existing interface, which is called RBI, and we face so much of problem, isn't it? Well, we are not alone. There are also few people who wanted to add some new features to an existing interface, and they also got this problem as well. Yes, I'm talking about the developers at Oracle while they are trying to develop Java 1.8 version. So what they are trying to do is they're trying to add few new features to the collection interface. So as you guys know that the collection interface is the root interface for entire collection framework, they're actually trying to add few new abstract methods to the collection interface, which are stream, forEach, splitterator, or some other methods, okay? So while they're trying to put those abstract methods to the collection interface, they're actually breaking a lot of classes, because collection interface is the root interface for the entire collection framework and tons of classes is implementing the collection interface. So in that case, they just cannot break all those classes which is implementing the collection interface by putting those abstract methods. So they thought and came with a new idea which is called default method. So the default method is actually a method which has a body. So the default method has a body. That means it is a concrete method. Okay, so what we understood from it that a default method is a concrete method and it is used to put inside an interface. Wait, you heard right. A concrete method inside an interface. You actually can put a concrete method inside an interface from Java 1.8 version, okay? And the benefit of using default method inside the interface is that it is not going to force your implemented classes to override the default method. So if you have a default method inside your interface, you are not bound to override it. You may override, you may not, but your class is not going to break. As simple as that. Okay, then let's go ahead and let's try to construct some default method for our existing program, okay? So instead of doing all this drama, instead of adding these new versions, okay, we just can delete that because we don't need that, all right? So what we can do is really simple, okay? And also we don't need this extra interface. This interface we have created just to add two new features, okay? But we really don't want any extra interface from Java 1.8 version to add any new feature. Instead, we can add new features to the existing interface by using the default method. So let me copy this method and I'm just going to delete this interface as well. Okay. And now let me put my copied method over here. So I'll do a Control V. All right. So now I can see these two methods is copied over here. Okay, but these methods are abstract method because abstract method is something which doesn't have a body, okay? And in the interface, you write it or not, compiler is going to add public and abstract if it is not finding these methods are preceded by abstract keyword, okay? So all the interface methods, as you know, they are by default public and abstract. Okay, now I just want to make these two methods as default method. So as I said, default method is a concrete method and it has a body. Okay, so now let's see how to construct a default method. Okay, so first thing is that all the interface methods are public. So I'll write public here and I'll make it default. That's great. Now this Aadhaar link is a default method. That's why it should have a body because all the default method has a body. So inside the default method, if you want to put any logic, that's fine. Otherwise, the people who are going to implement that, they are going to put their own logic by overriding this method, okay? So for example, I'm just want to make it simple, just want to put it over a print statement saying customer should link their Aadhaar with the bank, right? Similarly, right now let's try to convert this mean balance, which is an abstract method. Let's try to convert it as a default method. So to make it default, I'll write public, then I'll write default, right? And what I'm going to do, and I'll just put a sysout statement here saying there, okay, let's say connect your bank to know the minimum balance that you need to maintain. Okay, great. Okay, so right now my interface, which is RBI, has two abstract method and two default method. Okay, now the most important thing is to observe is that if you see this class SBI, now this class is perfectly fine even though it's implementing the RBI interface. So as per our definition, default method has a body, and the default method does not force the subclasses or the classes which is going to implement the interface to override it. Okay, they may override, they may not. Right now, for example, SBI want to use these two methods, these two features inside its application, then how they are going to do it. Okay, so now let's try to override the Aadhaar link method. We just want to implement our own stops here for SBI. So I'm going to override it. So I'll try just Aadhaar link. I'll just use a Eclipse trick to override the method. That's great. And now I'm going to get rid of these things. I'll just delete them. Great. And let's just presize it. Okay, this looks great. So over here, I'm just going to give a sysout, okay, saying your Aadhaar has been linked with SBI, right? And let's try to override another method called mean balance. So to override it, I'll again type mean balance, and I'll use the Eclipse trick to override. I'll get rid of this thing, and let's put a sysout over here. Let's say minimum balance you need to maintain is 1000 for SBI. All right. Now SBI has overridden these two default method to its class. Okay. But if you see the all other banks like Axis Bank and PNB does not overridden those methods yet. So let's run it and let's see is there any problem or not. So if we go back to the bank class, you can see here we have created a SBI user and we have called the deposit and withdraw method. So now let's try to call the other two methods. So I'll say SBI user dot Aadhaar link and SBI user dot mean balance. Great. So I'll say access user dot Aadhaar link. See, this option is coming, right? Even though we haven't override that. Okay. So Aadhaar link and access user dot mean balance. Okay. So now what's going to happen is when I'm going to make a call to the Aadhaar link and mean balance using SBI user is actually going to call all the overridden method as per the overriding rule. Okay, because SBI has already overridden these two methods. But if you see the axis is not yet overridden those two interface method, isn't it? These two methods, axis hasn't override yet. Okay, so in that case the parent method will be get called. Okay, so now let's run the application and let's see the result. So let me go ahead and click OK and bank. See, SBI deposit, SBI withdraw, your Aadhaar has been linked with SBI. Minimum balance you need to maintain is 1000 for SBI. Okay, these two things is coming because you have overridden those method and put your own logic. But if you see Axis, first two method is called fine because they have overridden that. But these two things, customers should link their Aadhaar with bank, connect your bank to know your minimum balance you need to mention. This two method is getting called because your Axis Bank has not override these two methods yet. Okay, I hope this is clear your understanding, and this is how you need to construct a default method and you need to use a default method as well. So this is what I got for you in this tutorial. In the next video, we're going to be talking about some more features of default method, and we're going to be also talking about the limitation of default method as well. If you really like this tutorial, then subscribe to my channel for more updates, and don't forget to like this video if you really like it. Alright, so happy coding and see you later.